curve with equation y equals x e to the 1 minus 2x has one stationary point. Find the coordinates of this point. Stationary points occurs when the derivative dy dx is 0. So we start by finding dy dx. And since y is x e to the 1 minus 2x, we have the product of two functions here. To find dy dx, we need to apply the product rule. So we hold the second term, differentiate the first term. Then we have e to the 1 minus 2x. When we differentiate x with respect to x, we have 1. And now we hold x and differentiate e to the 1 minus 2x. We need to apply the chain rule. We have e to the 1 minus 2x. The derivative of 1 minus 2x is negative 2. E to the 1 minus 2x can be factored. We factor out e to the 1 minus 2x, and we have 1 minus 2x. That will give us dy dx. Critical point occurs when dy dx is 0. We set dy dx to 0. This implies that e to the 1 minus 2x times 1 minus 2x. This must be 0. Since e to anything cannot be 0, then 1 minus 2x must be 0. And isolating x, we have x equals 1 over 2. We are to find the coordinates of the stationary point. We have the x coordinate. To find the y coordinate, we have 1 over 2. You sub x equals 1 over 2 into y. And we have e to the 1 minus 2 times 1 over 2. That is 1 over 2 e to the 1 minus 1, which is 1 over 2 e to the 0. E to the 0 is 1. Then the stationary point has coordinates 1 over 2 and 1 over 2. Part B, determine whether the stationary point is a maximum or a minimum. We can use either the first derivative or the second derivative test to check whether the stationary point is a maximum or minimum. If we use the second derivative test, we have to differentiate this again. Yeah, I'm not doing that. So what we could do is to use the first derivative test. We look at the sign of dy dx. At the point 1 over 2, you have this critical number. Then to the left of 1 over 2, we can test it out. We just want to see whether dy dx is positive or negative. So to the left of 1 over 2, we can always let x to be 0. So 0 is less than 1 over 2. We sub it into dy dx. When x is 0, dy dx is e to the 1 minus 0. So we have e and 1 minus 0. That is e. And e is 2.718. So that is positive. To the right of 1 over 2, we can always let x to be 1. Then we just need to check whether dy dx is positive or negative. When x is 1, we have e to the 1 minus 2, which is negative 1. And then we have 1 minus 2. That is a negative 1. So we have negative e to the negative 1. This is always positive. With the negative, we have a negative sign here. So this is less than 0. To the left, we have a positive slope. To the right, we have a negative slope. Well, if you join this, you see a maximum point, isn't it? So the sign changes from positive to negative, indicating that the stationary points with coordinates 1 over 2 and 1 over 2 is a maximum.